What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ALLiN podcast. As always, brought to you by our good friends at Cure Nutrition, Fit Aid, and IN3 formulations. You like how I changed up the order, Teddy? Guys, today we had our good friend Justin Murphy joining us from here in South Beach, Miami. We filmed this one pretty late on our trip, but some great stuff coming out of this one. And, full transparency, I learned some things about somebody that I consider to be a very good friend of mine. Not only is he a good friend, he's a great coach, and he's somebody that is really transforming the game. And the goal of this podcast is to bring you people that are innovative. And so you'll hear Justin's story, and it will touch you. And if it doesn't, you're just not human. But obviously, he's come from virtually nothing and overcome a lot. But most recently, he's uncovered something in this space in terms of how to create nutritional protocols that yield success in every situation. He's taken personalized nutrition to a whole nother level. He's personalized personal nutrition. And you're going to get introduced to a concept known as identity mapping. And I believe that this is one of the things you will see take over the industry in the next 5 years. So guys, listen up, take some notes, and as always, we will see you next week. So rumor has it, your nickname is Kicking the Dick.
Yeah, this weekend is when we established that.
Can you explain to the podcast why people refer to you as Justin Kicking the Dick Murphy?
It's so funny. I'm actually thinking back to that now, and I'm trying to remember how that all came about. As you were helping me write copy.
So for the people that don't know, we're here in Miami, and we're actually, we're quote unquote masterminding, whatever the fuck that means. We're having meetings, and we're discussing business, and we're actually creating success. So I think that's actually the opposite of how most people use the word mastermind these days. But we were writing sales copy yesterday, or writing email copy for just like one of your email blasts, and I believe you referenced yourself getting kicked in the dick. And then I thought it would be cool to call you Justin Kicking the Dick Murphy, and it just kind of stuck.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sign my name like that every day.
I feel like you should, and I feel like a lot of people will begin to resonate, because a lot of people will get kicked in the dick. So
Justin Kicking the Dick Murphy.
Yeah, awesome, good,
love it.
Fair. How do you think that your employees will respond to calling you Mr. Kicking the Dick?
I think they're gonna be happy about that. Yeah.
A little comedic relief in the office.
Yeah, remotely.
Yeah.
They'll probably change my contact number to that.
That would be cool. I would be okay with that. Like, I would actually approve of that. I would fully expect screenshots if it happens.
Is that the first thing you're going to tell them when you come out?
Yes. When I come to Texas and I begin to train your staff, I'm going to be like, your contact list better change. So,
I'll change my Instagram handle too.
Yes, there we go. No more iCoach. But on a more serious note, you did share something super cool with me today. A lot of what we'll talk about on this podcast is, your history, how you kind of got into health and fitness, ultimately how you've built a really successful business, and, you've done something really unique and really cool in the sense that, literally you introduced to me something this weekend that I had never heard of. And so I'm excited to jump into that. But more than anything, you shared a fact with me today, that on February 19th of 2018, you took your first dollar inside of the payment processor you use, right, for this coaching model. And your wife is pregnant, and her due date is February 19th.
Yep. If
that's not like just the universe speaking to you, man, like I don't fucking know what is.
Yeah, I literally just saw that last night. And it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy to think that we're here in Miami Beach, and it's only been since February 19th since I started this whole thing. So
less than 12 months.
Less than 12 months.
And so why don't you fill the podcast in on how it actually came to be? Because the truth is, our first meeting was about a year ago. It was in Dallas in January of 2018. But your business didn't end up starting until February. What happened in that whole process?
Yeah, so I basically was working for another company and had the opportunity to build a nutrition program within a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
And came to you, and had been following you on social media for 2 years or whatever, and
so you saw me post like maybe 2 times.
Yeah. Something like that.
Probably. Maybe only once.
I was shocked when you responded, actually.
I respond. Like, that's the thing. People don't realize I'm on social media. I just don't fucking post.
Yeah.
I just live in the chat shit.
Well, I think how it all first, I got on a call with you somehow. I won a call. Remember that?
Cool. I don't. To be completely honest, I don't.
You probably don't. I like won some call and I hop on it and you're like, what can I do for you? And I was like, dude, I want to work for you. And then you were like, well, why don't you like come out to like our one-day mastermind? Why don't you like come to because I was going to come to the hormone specialist certification. Yep. And that was planned.
And that was in Dallas, right?
That was in Dallas.
Okay.
So the one day was Friday. The hormone specialist was on Sunday.
Got it.
So Friday we come into the room. We start talking about our business. You find out that I'm running somebody else's business, and I tell you that I want to come and work for you. And then from there, you said no.
To make it short, yep, I said no.
Yeah, basically no. And I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I thought after the weekend that it was going to definitely be something that manifested into me joining the team. You know, I had basically told you, I was like, you know, everything that you're doing, like, I believe in everything that you're doing. I love how you're building your team. Like, I love the movement. I love everything. I want to be a part of it. And you basically called me out and said, no, like, I call your bullshit. Like, you keep talking about how you want to be a part of our badass team, but what you really want is you want to build your own badass team. And I just had this like light bulb moment where I was like, fuck, like, you're right. And from that moment, you told me how much it was going to be to work with you one-on-one and get mentored by you. And at the time, I think I had a couple $1,000s in my bank account. I was the $30,000 millionaire. I was driving a Cadillac, brand new Cadillac, and loving life. And I sold that Cadillac. I drive a Honda Civic now that's paid off, and I went all in. And here we are 10 months later, sitting in Miami Beach, planning 2019. And yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to share, just for reference for the podcast, like a little bit of personal perspective so that people understand like what went through my mind. You know, basically, I see this super talented person come in a room, and I heard you discuss all of these things that were happening in your business or in the business you were running effectively for someone else. And, you know, I've been around long enough to see people get taken advantage of. I've been taken advantage of. And I still see it happen in the space all the time. And, you know, I see this talent, I see this passion, and more than anything, I see a human being that literally just wants to do the right thing in the world, like, period. Nothing else, like, all money aside, all talent aside, like, your desire to go out and just create success and create results for people, like, it fucking mattered, right? And so we had this conversation, and we leave that room, and like we get on a phone call, and you're like, dude, like, I want to work for you. And the truth is, like, I absolutely, everything in me could have hired you because you're super talented, super driven. Like, clearly you've demonstrated inside of a year what you can do. And but like, it just wouldn't have been fair to you. You literally would have been in the same situation. You'd have been building, instead of business for somebody else, you've been building it for me, and that's not fair. I don't deserve that. Like, you don't deserve that. And, you know, I vividly remember because Chastity and I had this conversation. Like, we got off the phone with you, and I was like, man, like, there's 2 weeks then, and it's make or break. And I remember calling Chastity. The way the mastermind calls work is I called her like 2 weeks later for us to, you know, loop you in. And she said, I was like, fuck, like, we gotta talk to Justin. And then I'm like, this kid literally got off the last call and was so butthurt. And just like, I don't know where his head's at. And she's like, shut up. She's like, you have no idea what he just wrote in the spreadsheet. And like, she literally stopped me in my tracks. And like, you had written, I mean, dude, all the actions that we outlined for you to take to open your own business and like go all in and literally depart any ounce of security you had taken. And like, that moment to me was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced as a coach in any realm of life. And so I just want to acknowledge it on the podcast. I want to tell that story. You don't get to tell that story because you'll come off as like bragging, but I get to tell that story as the mentor that was behind the scenes, and just to explain to people the caliber of person you are, and your abilities and just your drive and your hustle to create success. And so you've got some really cool proprietary shit in your business that I want to get into. But before that, dude, you also have quite the story. Start us, like, I don't even know how far back it goes, but walk me through your journey. Like, how does Justin go from, early in life to finding health and fitness to business entrepreneur? Like, walk us through all that.
Yeah, so, well, first off, thank you. I kind of, going back to what you just said, like, helping people is something that I kind of had a perspective shift back when I was 18 years old. I was the kid that like grew up my whole entire life playing sports. I was the kid that like was in high school and cared so much about, being popular and all of these things. And I, kind of junior year, kind of fell into kind of that party scene. At my school, it wasn't just alcohol, it was drugs, right? So like ecstasy was a really, really big thing at my school. Junior and senior year, I did ecstasy almost every single weekend.
That's crazy to me. 16 years old, like, mind blowing to me. And not that it doesn't happen, but I'm just like, holy fuck, like, you heard my straight edge stories this weekend, so it's just like, it's laughable. But I don't mean to make light of something so serious, but it's like, holy fuck, dude, like, that's some serious shit.
I saw some really really scary things. Like it all started off in houses, and they were these house parties, and it was kind of more contained. And then we found these like rave clubs in Dallas that started opening up. They open at 4 a.m. So 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. And literally Friday night, Saturday night, every single weekend, junior, senior year.
That's insane.
And so for me, it was like...
Wait, like, were you getting decent grades? Like, were you getting by? What was home life like?
I got a football scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So the whole entire summer before I went to go play college football, we took 2, 3, 4, 5 ecstasy tabs Friday and Saturday night, every single weekend.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I was just chasing something that like wasn't me, right? Like I was, or we talk about it now, it's like I was suppressing something. And I think for me, it wasn't so much that I was suppressing something, I think it was more that I was just trying to be that like popular kid. Like I was just
significant.
I was living the fast life. Like that's really what it was. And so, we start doing this is junior year, and I'm, it starts adding up, right? Like this is expensive.
Of course.
And so, me, like I've always had some entrepreneur in me. Like I was a shithead kid. Like I would, everything from like the lemonade stands, but then I would like get baseball cards and Pokemon cards and like flip those, and then I started, it was just always like
There's nothing shithead about that. That's awesome.
Well, it was shithead because I would go to the store, I would open the pack of cards, I would steal it. So I would steal the card, I would take the rare one. I remember one night I went to Walmart, like no joke, and like I literally probably opened up like 50 packs of cards and took the rare one and left. And
then went to a card shop and sold it?
Yeah. Oh,
wow.
And I also worked at Walgreens, and I would steal cigarettes and sell those. So yeah, but going back to the ecstasy piece of it, it was expensive.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, I'll just buy a little bit extra, and like I'll sell them to my friends, and that way I can get it for free. Yeah. And then that turned into, like figuring out that, holy shit, I can make a lot of money. I mean, I made junior and senior year, like I literally was making like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
Wow.
Yeah. We were.
Like, that's no small amount of money. There's a lot of people. Sadly, statistics show there's a lot of people in this world that will not make $70,000 in a year.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I got so addicted to it, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like there was times that I went to the club and I didn't even take ecstasy. I just went there to sell.
Yep.
Because I would make $2,000, $3,000 a weekend. But I saw some of the craziest shit ever. Like I saw people in the club, taking way crazier drugs than ecstasy, carping out, laying on the floor, like foam coming from their mouth, the guards picking them up and just chunking them out in the street, and they would just die on the street because they weren't on their property anymore. And I saw, I'd go into these hotels and pick up the drugs, and I'd see so much crazy shit. Like it affected my life to the point where one of the guys that I had in my wedding, I I remember vividly like crying in his car on multiple occasions once it started getting to such a bad point. And I luckily got that football scholarship, which made me leave, and I'm so thankful for it because there were so many times in high school that like if I would have gotten pulled over with, you know, we were picking up 500 tabs. That's 500 counts of manslaughter.
Wow.
I could have had my life taken like that. And so, anyways, I go to Kansas. You would think that I kind of transition out of it. You know, I almost have like a full ride scholarship to this school, and we went back 4 times in one semester. It was 9-hour drive there, 9-hour drive back. And me and my best friend who got a scholarship to go play, and then 2 other kids, we drove back 4 times in one semester. Yeah, like that's how much I still like, I guess, fiend for like going.
Put that in perspective. How long of a drive is that?
9 hours there, 9 hours back. Yeah.
18 hours.
4 times in one semester.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I said, thank God I didn't actually get in trouble for drugs, but the thing that I actually got in trouble for was, looking back on it, it's like kind of like so petty, but it turned out to be way bigger than what I thought. And so we were just walking on campus one day, like we found a backpack, we like, took the backpack, we were just gonna take the textbooks and go sell them back to the school. Well, there was a wallet in there. We took the wallet, we went to McDonald's, a gas station, and Walmart, and like bought stuff with it, like idiots. And we all got on camera. And that night, the cops came they like knocked on their door, and all 4 of us were like in there, and you know, they said, hey, you're taken into jail. I was so like naive at this point that I thought that like I was just gonna get like a ticket. Like I had no idea. So I go there, they like book me into like a big boy jail. Like I go in there, like my cellmate is in there for 7 years for stabbing 2 people, and I was facing 2 felonies, 7 misdemeanors, 2 years in jail, and I had a shit ton of money I had to pay. And
holy shit.
That night, so at the time, I was not religious at all.
Right.
And that night, I remember I'm crying, like it's like you think you're so invincible until something like that happens.
Yep.
And it woke me the fuck up at 18 years old, and that night I remember like grabbing a Bible, and I read the Bible the whole entire night, and I just said, look, like I know these last 2 or 3 years have been bad, like all I've done is hurt people, and you know, if you give me this second chance, like I promise I will dedicate the rest of my life to helping other people.
Yeah.
I came back from Kansas at that point, which was like one of the hardest things in the world, because I was, you know, I just got this football scholarship. My parents were so proud of me. Like I was like one of 3 people out the whole high school that got a scholarship. Yeah. I was on like the homecoming court, so I was like popular in my town and all of that. And I come back and I face my parents, and they're just in tears. I got great parents. They had no idea any of this shit was going on. And I had my little brother and sisters. I had 3 little brothers and sisters that were there, and like everybody's just bawling. And so like coming back to that and facing that, and then not just that, like coming back to a community that really deservedly like shit on me. They were like,
100%.
You're a fucking piece of shit. Like don't ever hang out with my kid again. Like, you know, all of this stuff. And like,
so I mean, what ended up happening? I mean, clearly they didn't charge you with all of the felonies and misdemeanors. I mean,
I got literally saved by God that night. Like that's
what I mean. How long did you end up spending in jail?
So I literally got out after 24 hours. I got all of that dropped to 5 misdemeanors. I got put on probation for 3 years, and then everything got expunged off. So now I have literally nothing on my record.
Wow. And I mean, did the person just drop the charges? Like the
No, so in Kansas, after 3 years, you be on probation, you get expunged.
Got it.
So they were trying to pick up even more charges. Okay. They were trying to get us to pay for their whole entire semester of school, all our books, everything. Because and probably rightfully so. You know, this was around the end of the semester. They were taking finals. Like, they took their backpack. They didn't have their study materials. Like, I felt so bad. I mean, I wrote this girl like a letter and like all of this stuff. And like, just one of those things. It's like you don't realize when you're living your life that way. You don't realize what you're doing to other people and how you're affecting them until it just all comes down.
It's kind of crazy. I think that, you know, like we recently just did a podcast with Brad Jensen, and as he was telling his story, I kind of told him that I listen to things through different filters, and I listen to his story and I hear his story, but I also hear the story and the journey of clients. And as you're telling that story, and you're basically saying, like, as you're living a certain way, you don't realize who you're hurting. And there's so many people out there that literally are living life unfulfilled. They're living life in a manner where they don't trust themselves, they don't respect themselves, and they don't take the actions that they know they should be taking in an effort to achieve the results they truly deserve. And a lot of people are like, well, that's just up to you. Like, you're ruining your own life. But not really. If you're not taking action and you're not actively pursuing the things that you truly desire and deserve, you're purposely putting yourself in an unhappy position. You're purposely putting yourself in a position that is less than optimal. And anytime you're living like that, you are absolutely going to end up taking that out on somebody or something in your life. Maybe not even intentionally, right? But you're not becoming the person that you are to deliver the love, to deliver the help, to deliver the care to all the people in your life. So it's just kind of crazy how there's such a parallel, right? From something that was so extreme that landed you in jail, that I think everybody in this podcast can actually relate and hear and hopefully pinpoint themselves inside of. I mean, very few people that are going to listen have ended up in jail, but a lot of people will listen and resonate with the idea that they've mistreated themselves and certainly lived in a manner that is not congruent or in any way conducive to achieving the goals they've set for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and it's like one of those things. It's like I could have gotten in trouble for any of those things that I did, right? Just like anybody else. Like, there's so many things that we do that we don't get in trouble for that we could have gotten in trouble for, and then we could have been categorized as that person.
I think back to some stupid shit, man. Like, one of my best friends, and I looked up to the kid in like 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Like, and I mean, what are you in 4th grade? 10, right? You're fucking 10 years old, and we're going to shopping malls. And he'd steal things because he thought it was cool. Not because we even fucking needed it, because he's like, yeah, dude, like, I steal things. Like, he would steal the cologne testers at like fucking JCPenney. And like, I remember one time, like, vividly, dude, I come home and he had just stolen like Drakkar Noir. And I come home and there's a bottle of it on my counter, and I'm like, oh fuck, my mom found it. Right? And here I am, like 10 years old, like tripping, oh my god. What the fuck, like, my mom's gonna kill me, like, we stole something and she knows. My mom's like, oh yeah, like, we found that in dad's closet, like, you can have it. And I'm like, fuck, like heart sank, right? But yeah, like, I just can't imagine had we ever gotten caught, dude. Like, juvenile detention at 10 years old, are you fucking kidding me?
So speaking, I mean, now I'm thinking back to another thing. I mean, dude, when I was 9 years old, 10 years old, I was super big into skateboarding. We had a free skate park in my hometown. I got in trouble one time there too because I was charging kids to get into the skate park. And it was a free skate park.
Well, nobody can say you are not an entrepreneur from day one.
I think,
I believe it's been in you from day one.
I think so too.
Dude, that's crazy. So you come back to Kansas and you're kind of, you come back to Texas and you're kind of the black sheep, and you're getting shit on by the community and ostracized. And what happens? Like, how does that parlay into health and fitness of any kind?
Yeah, so I thought being in jail was like the lowest low, but coming back and facing my parents, my siblings, my community, like, that was definitely the lowest low. And what's crazy is, like, even after all of that happened, I didn't even actually like change because I didn't have an avenue to change. And so for me, the problem was always money, right? Like, I grew up in a family, like, we didn't have money, like much money, and so that was kind of like my struggle, if you will. And so when I came back, like, I had to like start selling weed again. And
so what, like, walk me through that, man, like, because you're saying the problem is money. None of us have that much money at that age, right? I mean, very few people are super successful, and I would say the entrepreneurial world is larger today than it was back when we were that age. But like, what is the real problem? Like, are you not able to afford to live the lifestyle you want to live? Or like, dude, you can't afford your fucking food?
100% that, right? Me comparing myself to everybody else.
Got it.
And me always complaining about, it's not fair that he gets this, it's not fair that she gets that, it's not fair that he got that car, it's not fair I have to buy my own car, it's not fair I have to pay for all my own shit. And so yeah, it was that. And It was luckily just for a short period of time. What ended up happening is I went to go look for a job, and I had an interview at Home Depot, and the manager ended up no-showing me. And my other interview was at 24 Hour Fitness, and I got the job as like a front desk person, making minimum wage, folding towels. And I still was super lost. I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I was in school, but I was just taking like basics at a community college. And one of the trainers one day came up to me and he was like, "Hey, you want to work out with us?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I work out with him, and he's like, "Why don't you be a trainer?" And I was like, "What the hell is a trainer?" And so I started finding out a little bit more about it, and I go and take my first personal training certification, which again, at that time I'm making minimum wage.
Right.
It was $700 for the certification, and I failed. I failed. And so coming off of all of that and then failing that certification, I was just like, fuck, like maybe this isn't for me. And through just, the support of people there, I decided to study for another month, and I retook it and I passed. And that's really like when my confidence and really like my whole entire world shifted, because now I started doing personal training and I started actually being able to like make money legally. I was like, holy shit, like I'm making, now I'm starting to make $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 as a personal trainer. And so that's when everything just took off. Like I literally grossed, like I was one of the top performing trainers there. Like the last month that I was there, I grossed $24,000. I only got paid $7,000, and I was like, fuck this, I'm out. So that was after being at 24 for like 4 years. And so at that point I was living in an apartment, rented out an apartment gym, and took my clients with me, started training them there, started making 100% of it. And that's when, like, I guess in this field where I was like really opened up to like, okay, I can't have people like taking splits and stuff like that. Like I need, like if I'm the one putting in all this work, like, because there was that month that I did 24, I did 204 sessions that month. These are 50-minute sessions. I was in school full time.
Wow.
And
so that's more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
It's just over 40 hours a week.
I was doing 10, 15 sessions a day.
Yeah.
And I just completely like got burnt out on that. And so at that point I transitioned, started training my clients in that garage. At that point I got introduced to CrossFit. And so from there I basically joined a CrossFit gym, started working out there, eventually started coaching there, and then eventually I became like the head coach, and then from there started the nutrition program. And right before I started the nutrition program, I had just finished my nutrition degree. But yeah, man, there was a lot of transition in that, because even as I was going through those years as a personal trainer, I was trying to figure out, do I want to go to PT school? Do I want to go down the nutrition route? Do I want to go, what do I want to do? And so after I got done competing in CrossFit, or towards the end of that transition, I had to really ask myself, okay, like, what do I want? Like, do I want to be 30, whatever years old and be like, oh, I guess it's time to start my career now? So I had to make a really hard decision. Like I had just gone to regionals 2 times. My goal was to make it to the games.
As an athlete.
But I realized that like, the risk reward for me personally just wasn't there.
Sure.
And at that point I graduated, I decided to go all in on the nutrition, built the nutrition program there, and then from there I met you.
So I have to ask, because clearly there's signs along the way that you're talented, right? I mean, you come back, you get a job at 24, you're quickly noticed, and by the time you leave, you're the top grossing trainer in the whole area. You exit that, you build this business inside of a hotel gym, you're crushing it there, you end up in CrossFit, you end up becoming an influencer almost immediately because you're coaching classes, you're a fucking beast of an athlete. Anybody that knows the CrossFit space knows you have to be an athlete, a top caliber athlete to make it to regionals. And yet anytime you talk to somebody, it's like everything you touch turns to gold, right? I mean, if you don't end up in jail for it, it turns to gold. And like at what point did you not recognize that you were talented, and at what point did you recognize you were talented? Because I just feel like, you started this podcast off by saying you suppressed a lot of things. If I'm listening from the outside in, I'm just hearing that you're literally suppressing your success. Is there any feeling of that, or is there something that I'm missing inside of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, like, an athlete my whole life growing up, but I was never like I got a football scholarship, but it was like, you know, an AI school, right? Like it wasn't like some big deal. And so
that's still a big deal. Like a scholarship offer is a scholarship offer.
Sure.
There's very few scholarship athletes in the nation, regardless of whether it's NCAA Division I or NAIA.
Yeah. I get, well, and so maybe, you know, me hearing that say that, like that was what it always was. Like I was always so hard on myself, and I was always, I mean, I still struggle with today. Like I had like the comparison syndrome. Like it's something that I've always struggled with.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I mean, I think that. I just think that I put myself in an environment, like I started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and those 2-3 years got really, really bad, and by the grace of God, like I got this second chance, and that's just been my motivator for the last 10 years. Like I'm very, 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 you know, aware that like I could either be dead or I could be in jail for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And so knowing that
pretty powerful motivator.
So powerful.
Yeah.
It's the thing that's motivated me for the last 10 years.
No doubt. And now you've got great motivation, man. You've got, you know, I've been fortunate enough to meet your beautiful wife. You have a baby on the way. I secretly just hope your wife's 2 days late, and it's February 21st, and you know our kids share the same birthday. I just think that'd be super cool. But
it would be.
But yeah, so I mean, it's crazy to me because I feel like, you know, mic drop, dude. That's a pretty epic story, but in my eyes, it only gets better because I've been in this space for 15 years, and everybody knows, like, I'm not shy to say it takes a lot to impress me in this space. Like, I've been very fortunate to rub elbows with the top prep coaches, the top like evidence and science-based guys, the top business earners. Like I've been extremely fortunate in my pursuits and my endeavors. And you know, as we sat down at the beginning of this weekend in Miami, you shared something with me, and you started talking to me about client successes, and you know, we're here to talk business, we're here to talk growth, but you started just sharing with me like this rapid results you were seeing with clients, and I was really blown away because it's not something I'd seen. And I was like, dude, like, what do you attribute it to? Because as I've stated millions of times, physiology hasn't evolved, right? Like we are who we were 50 years ago internally. Protocols are not really evolving. I mean, sure, we learn like a little bit more, but science is science, right? Calories are calories, macros are macros. Like clearly you had something, and me like just wanting to grow, like I wanted to know what it was, and you shared that with me, and I would love for you to explain that to the podcast because I was incredibly blown away, and I think this is a really cool topic.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I think the thing that's allowed me to like resonate with clients is because I've gone through a lot of shit, and like I've had to overcome a lot of adversity, and so like and me telling my story, like, because you're the one that got me to tell it, like
yeah.
I didn't tell my story for 8 years after that. Like I always thought,
and it's natural to be I use air quotes, it's natural to be quote unquote ashamed,
yeah,
and to want to suppress that, but I believe it's the single most powerful thing that literally every human being possesses.
And it truly was. I mean, not only was it such a like weight lifted off my shoulder, like I just felt like I had that like release that I finally, because you know we talk about it all the time, it's like eventually, you know, like everybody's going to see everything that you do in your life, and
yep.
I wouldn't want 5 years from now or 10 years from now for this stuff to like come out and me have never talked about it. And so I'm glad that it happened, and I'm also glad that like by sharing it, it was able to like touch other people's lives as well, and like the responses that I got back were, you know, still to this day are like just so surprising to me because I, again, was so ashamed of it and I didn't want to talk about it. And so I think like just clients seeing that, you know, like he's vulnerable, he's transparent, like he's willing to like share his life story with us, and like because everybody's been through something, you know,
yeah,
everybody's been through shit, like everybody has their own fucked up problems. And so really, I think I started thinking about it. I started talking to, you know, the coaches that we have on staff, and as we were kind of building the business, and like, it was just like this, it was like, I thought to myself, like, the identity that I have now versus the identity that I had, you know, in high school and in
as a drug dealer.
And as a drug dealer, like, I've shifted in identity so many times in my life up to this point And so, kind of what we've created, like through like the assessment process, through the initial consultation process when we first meet a client is, we basically call it like an identity map, right? And so what that means is, we've all been shaped, like our identities have been shaped throughout our life and through the people that we've met and through the experiences that we've had. And like, I wouldn't be the person that I am today without, my identity being shaped by all of these things. And so identity mapping is basically what we created, and that's the way that we kind of funnel people into our coaching process. It's not just like, hey, here's a fucking template, good luck. It's not like, hey, here's your macros, good luck. It's like, we really need to take you back to childhood. We need to figure out, what have you gone through? Like, what has happened to you up to this point that has basically, created this identity? And are you still living in a previous identity, or have you shifted into something else? Or are you living a lie? Or there's just so many things that we have to dig into before we ever even get into the nutrition conversation.
And it's fascinating to me because as much as we've both talked about like the mindset piece, I've never heard it so eloquently stated, and I've never seen it so effectively implemented. And I'm not gonna, you can talk as much or as little as you want about the process, and I know that you're getting ready to like release a whole, basically like a whole PDF on this and a whole course on this. But the way that you broke it down for me, and when we use your story and you start telling me about like the previous identities you lived in, how it shaped you then, but also how it shapes you today, and how you had to understand that there was an evolution from that, and there's an evolution that will continue to occur. It was mind-blowing to me. But when we started breaking it down inside of the action steps, and you started showing me how every action step that you are taking yourself inside of your business was linked up to a component of your identity, that's when it hit me that you had built something special. And so I went back, and last night, like after everybody went to sleep, I started thinking about my clients, and I started, you kind of explained the tenets to me. I started putting them through the process without asking the questions. And I actually started linking up and seeing things in my clients relative to our work together, be it if they've been with me for 3 months or 3 years. I'm like, holy shit, like this dude just fucking figured out something that I think the industry's been trying to figure out for 15 years. And a lot of coaches that are listening to this right now are wondering, sometimes I create the quote unquote perfect macro prescription, and I don't see success. And then sometimes I create a prescription where I have questions, and yet we knock it out of the park. And I think what you just said and what you've developed and uncovered is, it wasn't about the macros. It was the fact that their ability to effectively implement at any given time was because of where they were at inside this identity process. And dude, that was gold.
Well, one thing that you taught me was that, I came from getting a degree in nutrition, and so like obviously, like that whole process is much different than like the application in the real world. And one thing that I learned like once I met you is that like the emotion comes before the nutrition. And I think that that's a huge missing link with so many people, because you look at these initial questionnaires, these assessments, and it's like, give me your name, your height, and your age, or whatever, and it's like there's so much more. Like you have to dig in. Like when I first, or any of our coaches first hop on a call with a client, right? When we first take them through that process, it's like there's so many things that we have to discover and unveil before we can even start diving into it. And so I think that's such a missing link with so many coaches, because they're scared to ask those questions. They're scared to go to some of those, uncomfortable places with clients. And it's definitely a process, right? Like you have to build rapport with them. Like, like my goal and our coach's goals from the very beginning with clients is like, we just want to get to know you. We want to get to know as much about you as we possibly can, because if you just tell me about like, the diets that you've tried and things like that, like that's not enough. Like I need to know about your relationship with your family growing up. I need to know every last incident that has happened to you throughout your life. I need to know your story just like I share my story with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think back now, and when you walk me through this process, like I think about how I would create a macro prescription for you, right? And if you came to me today, I would look at you and be like, well, you're a former CrossFit athlete, you're a former college athlete, and without asking you deep enough questions and taking you through this process, I probably wouldn't know that you were in jail and had some trauma, and that absolutely could potentially affect not only how we set up the prescription, how we set up your ability to create compliance, but also how we handle any non-compliance. And as every single coach out there and even client knows, the success really comes in not the adherence to macros, but how you handle the non-compliance. How do you handle the mistakes? And I think that that's just fucking cool, man. I think that, you know, an unintended consequence of me having this podcast is going through things like this with people like yourselves and seeing what's happening in the space, and really just congratulating people like you for doing something epic, man. So I know we're running kind of towards the tail end of this, but I want to keep hitting on this because it's exciting to me and I think it's cutting edge. So when we talk identity map, and we talk about implementation of identity maps, I mean, is this something someone's going to do on their own? Is this something, like, is there an identity they're going to find? Is it something that is proprietary to your coaching? Like, where does it sit today? What is the future of this? Like, how can people relate to it or find out more about it?
Yeah, so I mean, up to this point, it's you know, it's only been offered to the clients that we work with one-on-one, and it's part of that initial assessment process. But you know, really what we're excited about for 2019 is that we're actually creating, you know, basically an identity quiz, right? Something that you can actually take yourself through, and then from there, you know, we'll be able to basically take that assessment and kind of walk you through it and help you to identify, because a lot of people don't know what their identity is, right? Like when you start asking some of these questions, like sometimes they don't even realize why they are or who they are or what are the things that have affected them up to this point. Or maybe they do know, but they've just been suppressing it for so long and they haven't talked about it for anybody, you know, and quite some time. And so, yeah, man, it just, you know, I'm sitting here talking about it right now and it just blows my mind, because I remember getting back into the field from the very beginning, and never in a million years would I have thought that I would have had the conversations that I have with clients these days, because back then I wasn't talking about any of this.
Yeah. Back then you were counting sets and reps.
Sets and reps, baby.
and when you get in the nutrition space, you're prescribing macros.
Prescribing macros.
And, you know, I think, unfortunately, that is, you know, that's what trainers are taught, and that's what nutrition coaches are taught. But even worse, that's what clients are taught to expect. And I think that the positive coaches in the game, those of us that, you know, we've got a pretty close group of us that all kind of hang out and discuss things together, and I think the positive coaches in the game are putting out the right message to move forward, and so that part's exciting for me to see, right? Like we're taking people out of being rep counters and macro counters, and we're moving people into actually becoming extremely successful. So dude, I'm not gonna steal your thunder, and I'm not gonna have you reveal too many secrets on here. And I think that the introduction to this process is super cool, and honestly, man, more than anything, I'm really going to actually encourage, and I never do this on the podcast, I don't think I've ever done this, so it's a first. I'm going to encourage everybody to hit Justin up and inquire directly about this identity mapping process, and get any materials you can from him, because guys, I'm going to openly say it again, I've been in the space 15 years and I haven't seen something this proprietary relative to efficacy in terms of creating results ever. And so I'm going to just kind of leave that at that. And, you know, we don't do like sales pitches or any bullshit like that. People know I'm pretty genuine, like when it comes to that. But what you did it's pretty awesome, man. And to hear the story by which it was produced is even cooler. So job well done, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I think that it's just cool to know that, like, there's, you know, everybody thinks about nutrition coaching, and I think that it's almost like everybody is trying to do the same thing. And I think that, like, there comes a time where we ask ourselves, you know, like, if I was gonna do it, like, I would have already done it. But even more importantly, it's like, you know, it's basically trying to think to yourself, like, you can't keep doing the same exact thing and expect like a different result. And
Amen.
So I think the problem with so many people that come to us is that I've tried this, I've tried everything, you know, nothing works for me, whatever it may be, and they keep going back and telling themselves these stories that they have identified with in the past. And I think the biggest part for us is just getting people to challenge people to think a little bit differently.
Yeah.
You know, like to get them to open up and realize that like it doesn't have to be this way. Like you deserve to feel the way you want to feel and look the way you want to look and perform the way you want to perform and like live the life that you want to live. Because one thing I realized that night when I was in jail and I thought that my life was over is that you only get one life. You get one opportunity, you get one shot, and like I could walk out this door tomorrow and be dead. Like
it's true. Yeah, I mean, like, and I always, people always say like, man, you're so cold, because I'll say shit like that, right? I'll be like, I might not wake up tomorrow. Like, and that's, as somber as that sounds, like it's the truth. And nobody really likes to address it, but I completely agree, man. I think it's, you have to give everything your all. You can't just live half-hearted, and you can't settle for not having what you want. And I think that's what's been really cool about me as a coach for you, watching you evolve, is you've never settled, and you've done the research and you've uncovered some cool shit. So I'm going to ask you two final questions. Obviously, the first is, where can people find you, and where can they get more information on this identity map?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of this is going to be releasing soon, like to the public. Like we said, we've kind of kept it kind of hush-hush, secret. But definitely excited to bring it out. So iCoachNutrition.com is our website. We will eventually have this as an opt-in on that website, so anybody will be able to take the quiz. And then on social media, iCoach Nutrition, and then my personal account is JustinMurphy_iCoach.
Awesome. And then obviously, dude, this is the ALLiN podcast. I firmly believe that to create success in any endeavor, you have to be willing to go all in on at least one thing. What is that one thing?
For me right now, going all in on the life that I've always dreamed of creating. You know, I think that tagline, that mindset of going all in, I mean, I have it written on my whiteboard at home, and this was one of like the first things that I ever took from you, and I think it's just a great way to go about life. You know, it's like whatever it is for you, like whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you just want to be the best mom or the best dad, or like whatever it is for you, like go all in, because like this is the only shot that you have. This is the only opportunity that you get, and most of us don't almost get our lives taken away. But I promise you that like if you've ever lost somebody or you've ever had something like that happen to you, like you don't take life for granted, and you really appreciate the opportunity at which you've been dealt. You know, I will never ever forget the night that I was sitting there in a jail cell with a guy that stabbed 2 people, and just thinking that my life was over, thinking that I was worthless, thinking that I was never gonna meet the expectations I'd set for myself. I just realizing that like I'm not even gonna get the opportunity to pursue my dreams. And so it's just powerful, man. It's been something that has like literally been like right here for 10 years.
Going all in on creating fulfillment inside of one's vision. Dude, I appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Guys, have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.